Morocco is one of those countries that everyone has heard of, but almost no one can explain. Some people think it's just desert. Others remember camels, carpets, maybe a soap opera. But the truth is that this country goes far beyond the clichés. It has snow in winter, desert in summer, and entire cities painted blue or red. Tea is more valuable than wine, trade is based on bargaining, and the symbol of love is not the heart, it's the liver. Yes, you heard right. Today, Bello Mundo arrives in this place full of contrasts to show you the most curious, contradictory, and real aspects of Morocco. Number 1. Location and geographical data. If someone asked you to point to Morocco on a map right now, would you know where it is? Many people think it's in the Middle East, while others swear it's near India. But in fact, Morocco is right next to Europe, in the northwestern corner of Africa, between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. It is so close to Spain that, on clear days, you can see Europe across the Strait of Gibraltar. The distance between the two continents is only 13 kilometers. No wonder the country is home to two Spanish cities, Ceuta and Melilla, which function as European islands on African soil. Morocco borders Algeria to the east, Western Sahara to the south, and connects to the world through ports such as Tangier and Casablanca, which receive ships from Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Its geography is one of the most diverse in the world. It has deserts, snow-capped mountains, beaches, forests, green valleys, and even cities painted entirely in blue or red, all in just over 400,000 square kilometers. The capital is Rabat, but Casablanca, the country's largest and most modern city, steals the show. Marrakech and Fez are the historical and cultural centers, with labyrinthine medinas, bustling markets, and aromas that blend spices, leather, and mint tea. Number 2. History. While Morocco today seems like a tourist country, full of charming riads and colorful bazaars, in the past it was the scene of empires, invasions, and intense territorial disputes. The story begins long before the arrival of the Arabs, with the Berber peoples, original inhabitants of North Africa, who were there long before Rome became an empire. The Romans, incidentally, also passed through there. The ruins of Volubilis, near Meknes, still feature columns, mosaics, and structures dating back to the first centuries after Christ. With the arrival of Islam in the 7th century, Morocco came under the rule of Muslim dynasties that blended Arab culture with Berber traditions. The Almoravids, Almohads, and Marinids came, and each left its mark: palaces, mosques, fortresses, universities, and social codes. In the 19th century, like much of Africa, Morocco came under the gaze of European powers. France and Spain divided the territory into zones of influence and established protectorates, a polite form of colonization. But the Moroccans fought back. They led revolts, organized resistance, and in 1956, they won their independence. Since then, the country has been ruled by a monarchy that remains in place today. King Mohammed VI has been on the throne since 1999 and is seen as someone who tries to balance tradition and modernity. Under his leadership, the country has undergone reforms, opened up its economy, and become a booming tourist destination. But behind the palaces and colorful markets, there are still tensions and inequalities that Morocco needs to address. Number 3. One people, many languages, and one faith. With over 36 million inhabitants, Morocco is a fascinating human mosaic. The majority of the population is made up of Arabs and Berbers, or a mixture of the two. And even though the official language is Arabic, in practice what you hear on the streets is a linguistic salad. There is Darija, which is Moroccan Arabic, full of words borrowed from French and Spanish, Berber, French, and even English in tourist centers. French, incidentally, is used in business, official documents, and schools. Spanish is more prevalent in the north of the country, near Tangier, due to Spain's historical influence. And Berber, or Amazigh, as it is officially called, is spoken mainly in the mountainous regions of the Atlas and in rural areas. When it comes to religion, the country is almost entirely Muslim. About 99% of the population follows Sunni Islam, and religious habits are ingrained in everyday life. Calls to prayer echo from mosques 5 times a day, punctuating the time and interrupting even commerce at certain times. It is common to see people praying in the middle of the sidewalk, on a small rug, or stopping a taxi to pray. Minarets, mosque towers, are part of the urban landscape, and the month of Ramadan completely changes the rhythm of the country. Daytime fasting, quiet afternoons, and bursts of life after sunset form a cycle that transforms even social relationships. But despite so much tradition, Morocco also has a modern side. Young people with cell phones in their hands, digital influencers, electronic music concerts, and women working in important positions, especially in large cities. Number 4. Cats everywhere. If you go to Morocco expecting to see dogs on the streets, you may be disappointed. But if you're a cat lover, prepare your heart and your camera, because they are everywhere. On street corners, in windows, sleeping on shop rugs, peeking out from between market boxes. Cats are as much a part of the Moroccan urban landscape as lampposts and signs. They are respected, fed, and petted. Residents place bowls of food on the sidewalks, water in ceramic dishes, and sometimes even rugs for the kitties to rest on. And why so much love for cats? It all starts with the Prophet Muhammad. Islamic tradition says that he had a cat named Muezza, and that once he cut the sleeve of his robe so as not to wake her while she slept on his lap. The story became a symbol of affection and respect for felines, which came to be considered pure animals in Islam. Unlike dogs, which are seen as impure in many religious and cultural contexts, cats have gained almost sacred status. They are allowed to enter mosques, roam freely around homes, and are often treated as part of the family. And this is not only in Marrakesh or Casablanca. In small villages in the middle of the desert or in the Atlas Mountains, cats are everywhere. Calm, haughty, and well-fed. Even in the dirtiest areas, as we saw in the previous topic, cats keep rats under control, which is why they are valued. In other words, in Morocco, royalty does not only live in palaces. It also walks on 4 legs, purrs, and sleeps in the middle of the street, like someone who knows they are loved. Number 5. Cities and places. You've probably seen Morocco in the movies, even if you didn't know it. Films such as Gladiator, Prince of Persia, 007, Game of Thrones, and The Mummy have used its landscapes as a backdrop. And it's no coincidence. The country is naturally cinematic. Casablanca represents the modern side, skyscrapers, wide avenues, and the imposing Hassan II Mosque, one of the largest in the world, built partly over the sea with a minaret that reaches 200 meters in height. But if you're looking for color, Morocco offers 2 of the most photogenic cities on the planet. In the north, Chefchaouen, the famous Blue City, has houses, walls, and staircases painted in shades of indigo. Marrakesh, the Red City, was born from the reddish clay used in its buildings. At sunset, the city takes on orange and pink hues, while Jemaa El Fna Square bustles with snake charmers, musicians, and food stalls. And yes, despite all this heat, it also snows in Morocco. In cities such as Ifrane, nicknamed the Moroccan Switzerland, winters are harsh. And in the Atlas Mountains, Mount Toubkal rises over 4,000 meters above sea level, even boasting a ski resort in Okaimiden. If you prefer the sea to the mountains, the coastline is also impressive. There are almost 2,000 kilometers of coastline, with Atlantic and Mediterranean beaches. In Agadir, surfing reigns supreme. In Saidia, the highlight is the calm, clean waters, which have been awarded the Blue Flag. Beach tourism there is still discreet, which guarantees peaceful and virtually untouched stretches of coastline. In other words, if you dream of watching the sunset over the dunes of the Sahara, but also want to take a dip and drink a cold juice with your feet in the sand, Morocco delivers all this, and still has history, culture, and color to spare. Number 6. Moroccan Cuisine. If there is one place where eating is more than a necessity, it is in Morocco. There, every dish is an explosion of aromas and meanings. Forget the idea that Arabic food is just kebabs and esfiha. In Morocco, your taste buds are immersed in a universe of spices: saffron, cumin, cinnamon, ginger, preserved lemon, honey, olives, dried apricots, fresh mint. It's a true sensory festival. The most traditional dish is Moroccan couscous, called sexo there. The semolina grains are steamed until fluffy and served with a rich stew of vegetables and meat, usually lamb or chicken. There is also tagine, perhaps the most symbolic dish, a mixture slowly cooked in a cone-shaped clay pot. It can be chicken with preserved lemon and olives, lamb with prunes, or just vegetables, always full of flavor. To start or finish the meal, there is harira, a thick soup made with lentils, chickpeas, tomatoes, and spices, which is both nourishing and comforting. There are omelets, grilled sardines by the sea, flat breads served warm with plenty of olive oil. And then comes the real ritual: tea. Mint tea is more than just a drink. It is a symbol of hospitality, tradition, and respect. It is served before, during, and after the meal. It doesn't matter. The kettle is raised high when it is time to serve, creating a foam that is not just for show. It is part of the ritual. Refuse a cup. It's almost an offense. And the sugar? Generous. Everything is sweet, strong, fragrant. And it is almost always accompanied by traditional sweets: almond cookies, puff pastries filled with dates or pistachios, dipped in honey. Eating with a fork? Rare. There you eat with your hands, and as we will see in the next topic, not just any hands. There is even etiquette for that. Number 7. Eating with your hands. Since we're talking about food and the tea ritual, it's time to understand how Moroccans eat. And here comes one of the most curious traditions that is taken very seriously: using the right hand at mealtimes. In Morocco, eating with your hands is not only allowed but recommended in many traditional homes. But be careful. Only with your right hand. The left hand is considered unclean. And this is no exaggeration. It is a cultural and religious rule. The left hand is used for personal hygiene, and putting it in food, or worse, picking something up from the plate with it, is a sign of disrespect, almost an affront. Moroccan table etiquette involves more than that. Meals are eaten on the floor, on rugs and cushions. Dishes are served in the center, in large bowls, and everyone eats together from the same container. Knives are not used, and pieces of bread serve as improvised spoons. Bread, incidentally, is sacred. It cannot be thrown away. Leftovers are saved to feed animals, exchanged for detergent, or given to those in need. Another important point: if you are invited to eat at someone's home, take off your shoes before entering. It is a sign of respect. And never refuse tea after a meal. Even if you are full, they will insist, and they will serve it with a smile on their face. Saying no may be considered rude. In other words, eating in Morocco is more than just feeding yourself. It is participating in a social ritual, following codes of respect, and above all, showing gratitude. Number 8. Tradition and etiquette. Now that we have entered the world of rituals, it is time to talk about the Moroccan way of relating to others. And get ready, because there are things here that you have probably never seen before, starting with respect for elders. In Morocco, age is synonymous with wisdom. Elders are treated with rare reverence. Younger people kiss their foreheads, stand up when they enter the room, and listen attentively to what they have to say. It's a respect that spans generations, and it's not feigned. You can feel it. Another custom that stands out is the gestures of affection between men. It is common to see friends walking hand in hand down the street as a sign of affection and trust. To outsiders, it may seem strange, but in Morocco, it is just friendship, true and simple. And do you want to know where love lives there? It's not in the heart, it's in the liver. Yes, in the liver. In Berber culture, one of the country's main roots, the liver symbolizes deep affection. They believe that this organ guarantees well-being, energy, and life. So when someone says, "You won my liver," it's like saying, "I love you," only more serious, more internal, more Moroccan. At weddings, this intensity turns into a party. 3 days of celebration with the bride changing clothes several times, live music, dancing, henna on the hands, and tea being served all the time. It's a dive into the culture and into the community. Number 9. Urban chaos. Continuing the journey, it's time to return to the cities, more precisely to the Medinas, the historic centers that look like living labyrinths full of alleys, stalls, noise, and tradition. It is here that Morocco shows itself in its most authentic form. You will get lost, you will sweat, you will laugh, and with luck, you will only feel a little irritation, because Medinas are all of these things at once. Right at the entrance, the sound of flutes catches your attention. This is where snake charmers appear, almost mythical figures with snakes wrapped around baskets and their eyes fixed on tourists. They really do exist, especially in Marrakesh, and they usually charge for any photo, even if your camera hasn't left your bag. Nearby, vendors offer everything: perfumes, rugs, ceramics, leather bags, counterfeit sneakers, and always with a smile on their faces. But beware, nothing has a fixed price. Bargaining is not only expected, it's practically mandatory. Moroccans are experts in the art of negotiation. The price they tell you first, that's just the beginning of the show. "How much is it?" you ask. "For you, my friend, special price," he replies. If you accept right away, you've lost the game. The ritual involves back and forth, refusals, threats to leave. It's part of the culture. It's almost a performance. Number 10. Dirty streets. To wrap up this tour, let's talk about something that many people notice but few actually comment on. Because, let's face it, not everything is sunshine and roses. Yes, Morocco has problems with urban cleanliness, especially in the old Medinas and large cities. It's common to walk through narrow alleys and come across piles of trash, a strong smell of sewage, food scraps on the ground, and cats fighting over leftovers. The souks, which are the country's most traditional street markets, are a spectacle in themselves. But they are also chaotic. People coming and going, donkeys carrying goods, merchants shouting prices, tourists getting lost at every corner. Culturally incredible. But in practice, it's a test of patience. And what's missing? Basic infrastructure, trash cans, sewage systems, decent paving. In some areas, these things simply don't exist. And the smell gets worse as you approach the tanneries, where leather is treated in the traditional way, dipped in tanks of lime and pigeon droppings. The result is efficient and quite memorable for the nose. Of course, not all of the country is like this. Cities such as Rabat, Agadir, and part of Casablanca show another side. Wide streets, well-kept gardens, clean avenues. But in the historic areas and simpler neighborhoods, the dirt is visible and often unavoidable. Does this ruin the trip? It depends. For some, it's just a detail. For others, it's a shock. But it's impossible to understand Morocco without facing these contrasts. The glitz of the palaces next to the dusty alleys, the luxury of the mosques surrounded by poorly maintained streets. In the end, this urban chaos doesn't take away from the charm, it's part of it. Because Morocco, with all its beauty and confusion, remains one of the most intense places you'll ever visit. Now that you know a little more about this country full of contrasts, tell us, what surprised you the most? Would you brave the desert just to see the most golden sunset of your life? Comment below, like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next destination on our Bello Mundo journey. See you soon.